First, every voice matters. Secondly, it's also about enhancing decision making. Thirdly, language accessibility. And finally, it's also about customer-centric approach.
Hello and welcome everybody to yet another webinar from Televic conference. My name is Stefan de Menk and I'm part of the product management team, and I'm joined here today with Bruno, who's also part of the product management team, and today we're going to talk about our newest video routing capabilities on Confero. As always, just some introduction. The webinar will take more or less 30 minutes. Do stay alert because we're going to ask a few questions throughout this session, and if you answer all three of them, you're eligible for a gift card at the end. If you want to share or rewatch this webinar again, please do go to our website televic.com/conference, where you'll find all the webinars, this one and all the ones from the past as well. Okay, so before we get started, just some introduction on Televic. Televic is really known as a provider of conferencing equipment for large institutions and very formal meetings. Think about United Nations, the NATO, European Parliament, and so on. However, in the last couple of years, we've focused more and more towards these informal and hybrid meetings. Today, hybrid meetings are here to stay. A lot of meetings are already hybrid, and we are now also providing a lot of capabilities and products to facilitate those as well. In the end, our goal, our vision, our strategy is really creating better understanding. This means that everybody can hear each other, can see each other, and can talk in their own language, for instance, as well. But for us, it's more than hear and being heard. It's of course also see and being seen. And today we're going to talk to you about this last part specifically in a way of presenting the Confero advanced video capabilities. And for this, I'm going to hand the clicker to Bruno, who's going to talk to. Oh no, I was going to do it. No, you're going to do it.
Thank you, Stefan, and welcome to you all from my side as well. So, from a point of view, from a practical point of view, we'll first give a very short introduction about the Plixus system and the architecture. And most of you know that we have two products. One is called the Cocon and the other one is called Confero. The Cocon part also has a web interface, and on top of that we have the PC with the Cocon applications. One of those applications is the video routing that was already present there, and we've now pushed that also to Confero. Now, how is Confero built up? Very similar. We have the system and the software installed on the central unit with the web interface, and there's an additional Confero 360 license which unlocks a number of meeting capabilities. If we add on to that the audio configurator, that's one of our previous webinars from last year, so please go and have a look at that one. That one adds, getting a little bit difficult here, but that one adds the audio routing capabilities so that you can get audio from Dante channels into the system, for example, and put it back out to recording and other equipment. We are now adding to that the video routing capabilities that you already know from Cocon. Again, same idea, getting video or multimedia content into the system, as well as getting the multimedia webcams, for example, out into two external systems. The next logical step that we're working on already is to enable the advanced interpretation so that you can unlock more than 11 languages and boot configuration settings in Confero as well, bringing both platforms up to par on a functional level. Today, the focus is on the advanced video parts, and we'll zoom into that one. But first, we interrupt with a small poll or a small question. What meeting management solution are you mainly using today? Is that mostly Confero, Cocon, not sure, or it's a mix of both, or you're not using any Televic equipment today yet? Okay, So everybody had some time to fill in the poll, so thank you for that. Let's move forward to the first use case that we'll dive into a little bit deeper. So we're going to explain the video configurator based on two use cases, and the first one is a typical conference room hall setup. So we all know these type of setups. You have a presidency desk, people in the audience, interpretation, etc. So if we dive into what's important for the video routing itself, we know, for example, that there's a lectern, where somebody is giving a presentation. Maybe they bring their laptop where they put in, connect to the system to share a presentation. So the president's sharing. There are a number of cameras in the room. These capture what's happening in the room, capture that video feed that we want to display on different screens. There are different screens in the room. Typically one big screen that's somewhere behind, multiple monitors that other people can look at as well. And in this case, we have added a presidency desk where there's a number of people who have a multimedia Unicast device in front of them. Why? Because they can't look back to see the screen, so they need a screen in front of them. But let's not forget interpretation. Interpreting is important. The interpreters do not only want to have the audio feed. Usually there's a window in an interpretation cabin so that they can see the room, but very often that's not the case, and then you can also add different screens, bringing the person who's speaking, the presentation content, into the system as well. And what's the important news, or the good news, is we can do all of that on our Plixus network. So you don't need a separate AV network or a separate video network. You can mix all of that in the Plixus network. Now, what's at the core is our central unit. You can see that on the diagram. And if we add the different delegates unit to that, in this case, Unicast devices, we create one loop in our Plixus network connecting these devices. The next step is, of course, getting that presentation content into the system. This can be done through a laptop that is connected via an HDMI cable to a VIN box. And this VIN box basically converts the laptop signal to a video stream on the Plixus network. As of that moment, this video stream is visible on the Unicast devices in the room. Next logical step is to have a similar or symmetric setup with a V-out box that takes one of the video streams on the Plixus network and connects it to a big screen, projector, or another multimedia device. This V-out box has an HDMI out input, so it's very easy to connect it to standard equipment. And last but not least, there's the camera feed that we want to add, which in this case we can connect over SDI, but this could just as well be a VN box or another way of inserting that content into the system. And I forgot the interpretation desks, but if we add those as well, they can just connect onto the same central unit on the same Plixus network and both receive the audio as well as the multimedia content as, in the system. Now, what are the requirements for the setup that we just described? Basically, we want a HDMI or video input for a presenter. We want to capture the camera feeds in the system, in this case over SDI, and we want to see who's talking. So for the multimedia units, we can enable a talking head feature to show who's talking using the webcams of the units. From an output point of view, we want to bring this output or this video multimedia content to a screen, to screens or one or more screens in the interpreter desks, as well as to the screens on the multimedia units for the people on the presidency desk. This is a configuration that we will now together create in the system live, just to show you how easy and flexible the platform actually is. So we'll move now to the web interface of the Confero system, and we'll go from there. When we log in into our central units, we see the Confero web interface, and there we can log in with the technician profile. If the advanced video license is available and enabled on the system, the video button is visible, and we can see the different presets that are configured into the system. There is actually one system preset in the system, which basically links the SDI input of the central unit to the first video stream. Next to that, there are multiple additional custom configurations that have been added, and we can easily add a new one, which we will do in this demo as well. For adding a new presentation, a new configuration or preset can be based on an empty configuration or as a copy from another one to start from. In this case, we will start with an empty one and start immediately. As soon as we click on the edit button, we can see that we can navigate and add different inputs and outputs. And we will start with the first input. This is the camera feed that we were talking about, in this case connected over SDI. So we'll put in the SDI as a source, put that camera input stream in there, and then assign it to one of the 6 media streams that are available in the system. So in this case, the first one. The second input that we needed was for the presentation. So in this case, we will add the presentation feed, which is connected to a V-inbox, or that we want to connect to a V-inbox, where a laptop with an HDMI cable can be plugged into. So we select the correct V-inbox that is available in the system, click on create, and just as easily that feed has been added as well. And we can assign it in this case, for example, to stream 2. So that brings us to those 2 streams, but maybe as the next step, we also want to know who is talking or use the functionality of the webcams in the Unicast. So in this case, we can add another group of users or seats in this case of devices that have a webcam available, select the talking head group type and add all the devices that have a webcam enabled in the system and add these as an input flow as well. So again, just few clicks adding them, and we can assign them just as easily to one of the video streams. This covers everything related to the input of the system. We have created the 3 inputs, but we also need to get these streams out of the system. And that is done by creating outputs. The outputs, again, we defined a number of them. First one was the big screen, one or more screens in the room. So we just select, in this case, a V-out box that manages the screens, and this can be more than one. If you have multiple screens in the room, you can just add multiple V-out boxes in the network and connect those 2 screens. To connect those to an input stream, we just select whatever feed that we want to have on those screens displayed. So again, just a few clicks and everything is configured. The next item that we want to add is to bring output to the interpreter booths. Depending on the type of setup and the setup that you have, if you have multimedia lingo IDs with a HDMI output, you can select one of the available lingo IDs, or you can just equip your interpreter booths with a number of VR boxes. So for example, in this case, we add one VR box to an interpreter desk, and for example, we can add a second one to that same cabin or that same booth, which allows you to, for example, have a feed of the presentation feed as well as a feed of the talking head, so that the interpreter always has all the information that they need. Connecting those VR boxes to the correct stream is just as simple, and again, a matter of clicking the correct stream and linking it to the correct outputs. So now we have created all of the inputs, we have connected them to the different outputs into the system, and basically our video configuration is available. What is important to know is that all the video feeds that are available in the system are by default also visible to on all the multimedia units. So on the interface of the multimedia units, you will have access to the different video streams. If you do not want this, or you want to disable a number of streams because they are not used, you can just easily disable these streams, and as soon as this is done, the multimedia Unicast units will only, or Unibox units, will only show those activated streams. This also means that you can have some video streams that are actually in the network that you use for routing content from one side to the other that you will not use, and that are hidden to the end user in the room. To activate the video configuration or the video preset, it's just a matter of clicking that activation button. Streams.
Thank you, Bruno, for this very interesting demonstration. Let's continue now to our second use case, but before we do that, maybe first a second poll question. So how many streams can Plixus actually manage simultaneously? Is this 1, 3, 6, or 32? And I'll give you a few seconds to reply. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next use case, being the hybrid meeting. For the hybrid meeting, we're thinking about corporate hybrid meetings, for instance. We typically want to use our Unicast product. And Unicos is really a high-end multimedia device which combines an integrated webcam with a microphone and speaker, but also the video display, of course, which is tiltable. And in this case, it's our Unicos Pro product, but later this year we're also going to release the Unicos Core, which has a different set of features. We're actually going to dedicate a specific webinar to this new product, which is coming up very soon as well, so please stay tuned for this one as well. Now, what's the advantage of this product? Well, one of the advantages, of course, it solves the line of sight issues. So if you have these types of corporate meetings, the problem often is that the person in the room is having difficulty seeing the screen. As somebody's sitting in front of it, or the angle is not right. But by having a dedicated Unicos for every single person, they can just follow along with the presentation on their own screen. The opposite is also true, of course. If you have cameras in the room, it's not always very easy to install these cameras on good positions to capture every single person in the room itself. And here again, we can solve this by having a Unicos product for every single person, so they can actually have that dedicated personal view. How do we do the setup? Well, similar to the previous use case, we start with the Plixus MME at the core. We combine this with a set of Unicos devices, and thanks to the Plixus network, which we explained before, all of this is also connected with one single cable, which is a standard Cat5e shielded network cable. The goal here, however, is to combine this with a UC platform. Think about Teams, Zoom, WebEx, whatever system you want to use, we want to combine it with that. How do we do this? Well, we can again expand our network with, for instance, a video inbox, which connects to over HDMI to that UC platform. In some cases, of course, you need a bridge to convert to a USB, but those are available off the shelf. The opposite is also true for instance, presentation, or the same is true for presentation mode. You need a video inbox if you want to share your presentation laptop so that everybody can follow along. And then if you want to get the video stream from the Unicos into the UC platform, we have our video outbox, which also connects over HDMI with the central UC platform. With this setup, we actually have a full multimedia system, but don't forget, of course, the audio. So we use typically Dante between the Plixus and then the UC platform like Teams or Zoom to actually make that connection. And here again, we have our complete setup. There's actually one more thing that we're missing in this setup. It's the fact that if you have multiple people in a room and then multiple people remote, the meeting equity is not the same between those. And this is typical the situation that you see here with a standard hybrid integration. So we have in your UC platform, Teams or Zoom, you actually see a set of people in one square, but everybody remote has its own individual square. So from a meeting equity perspective, how well is everybody presented in the stream? It's not the same. It's not always ideal. And sometimes this is very difficult to explain to customers. And there are solutions to this. One solution, for instance, is to use a multi-window processor, a video matrix, where you can combine multiple output streams of our system, combine them into one, and then send this to the UC platform, and then have this type of solution. This works perfectly, but you can see here meeting equity, although better than the previous solution, it's not ideal. The squares themselves are smaller than the people who are remote, so it's not the same experience as you would have in the room or remote. Luckily, Zoom actually came up with a multi-camera mode, which allows you to send in multiple video feeds into the same platform, so that every single person, up to 4 streams, in this case with Zoom, can have a dedicated dedicated box in the Zoom application. And this really puts the level of meeting equity between people remote and in the room at the same level. Now, we can facilitate this very easily, but we're missing one extra step, which we call the multiple talking heads. In the example that Bruno gave you, we are going to send out the last person who's speaking to the far end, to the view, to the screens of the people following along. In this case, you actually want to have, for instance, the last 4 active speakers, not just the last one, the last 4. And with our multi-talking head functionality, we can actually facilitate this. So this is an inherent part of our video configurator now, where you can select the last 4 speakers and send these out over video outboxes. And this makes it very easy. Again, going back to this Y diagram, we simply add an additional set of video outboxes, connect them all to the same point, and by just changing the video routing, your system is now ready for those multi-camera streams. To conclude this presentation, now all the configuration related to video routing on Confero can be done via our web UI. We also have an API, of course, so everything that we have showed today can also be controlled over the API. It's a very flexible setup. It's very easy to install. You don't need a dedicated AV setup separately. You can do everything within Plixus. And important to notice here is also the fact that it's very low latency. The video feed going through our system has a sub-frame latency, which makes it ideal, for instance, for interpreters to follow along with the conversation. And then the new feature, of course, which we added is the multiple talking heads, which is completely built into the system. This ends us towards the third question. It's really an informative question towards you. Like, how important is meeting equity in your projects? This is very important. Is it sometimes required, but not always? Is it not important at all? Or do you still ask yourself, what is meeting equity? So again, I'll give you a few seconds to reply. Okay, just to close off, don't hesitate to get in touch with our team. If you have any questions, any projects, any further remarks on the slide deck or any other of our products, scan the QR code. We'll be in touch in the coming days to follow up with you. And we really want to end up with creating better understanding. This is, again, our slogan, our vision, our strategy. I hope with this webinar, we actually helped creating a little bit better understanding towards our video capabilities. I also want to, again, show the link where you can find the webinars. So both this webinar as well as the following webinar and the previous one can be found via this webpage. So please, if you want to watch it again or share it with any of your colleagues, please go ahead. And I also want to invite you to the upcoming webinars. And like I said, the next one is going to cover the Unicos core and the complete family. But there's some other very interesting ones towards the Plixus architecture and the interpretation on Confero as well. Do follow us on the social medias to stay up to date. And I would like to thank you all for joining us today, and hopefully until next time. Thank you very much.
First, every voice matters. Secondly, it's also about enhancing decision making. Thirdly, language accessibility. And finally, it's also about customer-centric approach.